G'day folks, today I'm going to be teaching you how to use the best settings on your Deeper Fish Finder app. Hey you! You're watching Robbie Fishing. Now today I'm going to be using the Deeper Chirp +2, this one here. It's got the orange night fishing cover on it because I've been night fishing. But anyway, there's a whole different range of Deeper fish finders. There's the Chirp Plus, the Chirp +2, the Pro +2, the Pro Plus, the Pro. They're all a little bit different, but on the whole, the features on the Fish Finder app are all quite similar. And in this video, I'm going to teach you how to use those features and how to choose the best features or the best settings for when you're using your Fish Finder. I'm up here at a small dam near Stanley in northeast Victoria called Parky's Dam. I've come here for a reason, because I've never ran a fish finder through here. There's other dams in the area that I've had my various deepers out and I've sounded them out, but I've never had it working here. So I'm going to run my Deeper Chirp +2 through Parky's Dam, and I'm going to show you all the settings that I'm using, why I'm using them, how they all work. Let's get started. Right, I'm ready to get started. I've switched from my SLR camera to my action camera to free up my hands and focus on what I'm doing. I've actually got my phone set up here on a big tall tripod just to make it easier for filming purposes. When you're in the field, you don't need to do this. You can sit it on the ground, sit it on a log, or you can even get a little bracket that clips onto your fishing rod. But for filming purposes, it's going to be easier for me to have it up there. Rightio. Now, when you first go into the app, that's what it's going to look like. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my Deeper, which is over here. I'm using this with a bait caster rod with 50-pound braided line. Now to turn the Deeper on, all you've got to do is put it in the water, and these two little metallic knobs that stick off the bottom will turn it on. So that sort of shortens the circuit or creates a circuit which turns it on. So that's now on. So let's hit connect. Connect to a Deeper sonar. Connect. Now I get asked a couple of common questions and I'll go through all them while I'm doing this. Mobile data can impact connectivity, please turn off. Update settings, what does that mean? Using mobile data, right, let's turn that off. Right, now, this is a new scan, so I can choose what sort of scan I want to do, and I'm going to do onshore. Let's go across from left to right. Standard is just a standard scan, just like a fish finder. Bait boat, I'm not even sure what that is. Ice fishing, I don't really know what that does because I live in Australia and we don't really get all that much ice. Boat obviously is on a boat, but onshore is what you use to create a bathymetric map. So onshore and standard are similar, but onshore will act the same as a standard sounder, fish finder, but it will create a bathymetric map while I'm doing it. So I'll hit onshore. Now, let's have a look. Here we go. Where's there it is. It's just sitting casually out there in the middle. It's easy to see with that bright orange night cover on. Right, here we go. This is the default. This is how it starts. On the right here, that's the standard sounder. You can move the white line in the middle to make your sounder bigger, or to make your map bigger, you can go the other way. I'm trying to, here we go, like that. So that's what it looks like. So at the moment, let's go through the settings. Up the top here, it's 3:16 p.m. To the right, where it's got them numbers, the top one is 88%. That is my mobile phone battery. The round one underneath is the fish finder battery. So the phone's at 88%. The fish finder down there is at 95%. So we've got plenty of power. Look, it's already showing up a fish directly under my fish finder. Now another one. Right, let's worry about that later. So let's go across here. It says onshore scan. It shows us what mode we're in. It's got 16.4 degrees Celsius. That's the water temperature. And I'm in 1.3 meters of water. Now, if I hit up the top right there, you'll see that little cog, that settings cog. Let's touch that and see what happens. Now, here's our settings. And this is the bit this is what this video is about. There's a lot of things about the Deeper Fish Finder that you need to know, but I'm not going to go through all of them today. Today's video is mostly just about the settings. One of the questions that I get asked the most is, do you need to be near Wi-Fi? Do you need Wi-Fi service? Do you need to be near the modem? No. You can be out in the middle of nowhere and use a fish finder. You can be out in the middle of the desert, 500 meters away from your nearest phone tower, 500 kilometers away I mean, but it'll still work, provided you can find water, because it won't work unless it's sitting in water. So you don't need phone service. Wi-Fi, for people sort of my age and over, probably don't understand as well as the young people. Wi-Fi, picture Wi-Fi as an invisible cable. So basically Wi-Fi is a cable that we can't see that runs from the fish finder to the device. Even at home, when we hook into the Wi-Fi to check our internet and our emails and stuff, all that is, the Wi-Fi is just an invisible cable from your modem to your phone, or from your modem to your television. Just because I think a lot of people associate Wi-Fi with the modem and home internet, but the Wi-Fi is really only the connection between the modem and your device. And that's what the Wi-Fi is here. It's a connection between the Deeper and the phone. I do get asked that question quite a bit. So you don't need phone service. However, I do recommend when you very first set it up that you find a little pond or creek or somewhere in town or where there is phone service, because that will help you set it up. When you set it up, you'll be prompted to create an account, download offline maps and everything. For example, this map here, I'm offline. Remember, I turned my mobile phone data off earlier, but you can still see the map. It's an offline map, and I had to download that with internet service. So when you first get it, make sure you've got internet service to set it up, get it all working, create an account and all that jazz. But then once it's all running, you don't need service. Right, let's go through the settings. Top right here, let's touch this cog. Along the top it says fishing mode, and that's the ones that we saw when we first logged in. Standard scan, bait, boat, ice fishing, boat fishing and offshore. We're in onshore, we're in onshore now. I'm not going to change that, I'm going to leave that as it is. The next one down, sonar display, raw or basic. If you look there now, that's showing raw. If I touch basic, watch what it does. It turns it into like a cheaper fish finder. It just makes it easier to look at. You don't see all the different colours and the different interference. You just see the depth and it'll show fish icons. Deeper have got one model in their range called the Deeper Start, and basically going into basic just turns it into a Deeper Start, which is probably good for young kids. If you've got kids playing with your fish finder and with your Deeper, that's probably a better setting for them. Personally, I prefer raw. Vertical flasher, this is the next one down. What that is, if you look at the right side of where it's scanning, you'll see those white lights, those white things flashing. If I turn them off, you don't see them anymore. That setting really doesn't do much. When it's too shallow, the ones at the bottom and the ones at the top will touch each other, then you'll get a sign that says too shallow or too deep. But that's all that does is turn that on and off. Doesn't really do much. Now down here we've got beam angle. Auto switch beam for shallow water scanning. I've got that turned on. If I turn that off, hang on, I've got the wrong button there. That's my screen recorder. If I turn that off, I've now got to choose which beam I want. Now, at the top here, you'll see that I'm only in 40 centimetres, 0.4 metres, because it's drifted really close. This particular model, some models will only scan down to 0.4, but this one has a narrow beam for shallow water, and that's the 7-degree beam on the right. So if I touch that, it'll now start giving me a reading. Yeah, so you see that there, that's giving me a reading in 0.4, 0.3. It'll read, that's between 30 and 40 centimetres. That 7-degree beam will go right down to 15 centimetres. So if I go back to 20, up the top it'll say too shallow or too deep. And it could freeze. It sort of freezes the fish finder. Too shallow or too deep. So I put it back into 7, and you'll see that it's frozen. Now it's going to start again. Sometimes if it freezes, you might have to take the fish finder out and recast it, but it's kicked back into gear. So basically, you can choose between 40, 20 and 7. 7 is for shallow water, or you can just have it on the auto, which will make it zoom in and out all by itself. Now if I cast that out deeper, while it's in 7, let's have a look and see what happens. It says too shallow or too deep, but just give it, there it goes. Sometimes you've got to wait a couple of seconds for it to pick up the satellites. It's telling me 1.8, so I'm in 1.8 metres just out there. I'll just put it on 20 degrees. Let's put it on 47 and see what happens. So they all work. The 20 degree seems to be better out there. But all you really need to know is that the 7 degrees, these for really shallow water. That's when you want to use 7. But if you just do what I do and have that in auto switch, so that it automatically chooses the right beam, then you don't really have to worry about anything. But that's what the beam angles do. Basically all you need to remember is the 7 degrees is for shallower water, and I just normally use auto anyway. So now I'm in 1.3 metres of water and there's a fish under my fish finder. And that's going to lead me to another question that I get asked often. Does it tell you the fish sizes? But I'll get to that shortly. Scrolling down past beam angle, we've got sensitivity. The sensitivity is a funny thing. I find in still water like this, you can have it really high and it's okay. In flowing water, it'll pick up every single air bubble in the water and you'll get a lot of interference in your fish finder, and then you've got to turn it down. In one of my earlier videos, I think it's called Sounding Out McCormick's Hole, which is a popular swimming hole near Wangaratta, where I live, I had to put the sensitivity right down low to about 5% because all I could see was white dots all over the screen from the air bubbles in the turbulent water as it raced around the rocks. So sensitivity can be adjusted. You can see as I turn that up and down there, you can see it's showing up more and more on the bottom. So in still water like this, you know, anything, I don't know, I'll go about 70. I'll have the sensitivity up to make sure I see more stuff. Might even go up to 80. Now, let's go to show fish icons. Basically, this is going to make that fish disappear. I'll do it now before he's off the screen. So he's just disappeared. I can turn it back on and we just got to see his tail as it got off the screen there. Basically, that just tells you, it turns the fish icons on and off. Now, one of the other questions that I get asked a lot is, does it really see the fish? Is it telling you where the fish are? My personal belief is no, it's not. And really no fish finder in this price range is. This is a $400 or $450 fish finder. There are fish finders that you can actually watch the fish swim around like the live scopes, but I tell you now, they're a damn sight more expensive than $400 or $500 or $300 or whatever the deepers are. They're worth thousands of dollars. What this does, it'll show things. It'll show things on the bottom. It could be a snag. It could be a snag or any other kind of structure. I'm just going to lob it out towards the centre a bit now. Kaplonk. It'll show all kinds of stuff out there, but if there's a snag or something underneath the fish finder, it'll tell you it's a fish. Now, if you're in a waterway that has no snags and no structure, it might very well show you the fish. It will show you the fish. But if you're in a place with lots of snags and lots of logs, well, it's going to show you the logs and the stuff on the bottom as fish. Basically, the fish icons to me, they tell me that yes, that's a very good spot to wet a line because there could be a fish there, but it could be a snag. And even if it is a snag, well, a lot of fish will hide around the snags. So even if it's not a fish, it's still worth casting there. So you can have the fish icons on, and if you see a fish icon, usually it's showing you a good spot to put your line. Whether it's a fish or a fish holding structure is anyone's guess. There we go, I've just found something showing up there now. That's showing up a fish. And it could be. What happens if I turn fish icons off? There's nothing there. What if I turn the sensitivity up? There's not really anything there, so I'm not sure why it's showing that. There could just be something, there could be a leaf or something floating under the water that we can't see, or there could very well be a fish. Although here in Parky's Dam, I'm guessing it's probably not a fish because I don't think there's any fish here. In saying that, I know there are little weenie fish in here like galaxias and little minnows and stuff. Now, if you do want the fish icons on, you can choose large and medium, and large, medium and small, and that'll show you where the small fish and the big fish are. My personal preference is to have the fish icons off. Now, over to the left here, I can see a lot of snags where a tree has fallen in. Let's put the fish finder right on top of the snags and see what it shows us. Now, is it showing up any snags? Normally you'll see a peak between the scans, between my last cast and my new cast. Look at all those scans, look at all that yellow. If I turn my sensitivity down, it'll show me that the snag's there. If I turn it right up, it'll show me that there's lots of snags there. What happens if I turn my fish icons on? Look, there's heaps of fish. Now, as I said earlier, are they fish or are they snags? My guess is they're snags. but I also know that snags are good places to go fishing because snags often hold fish, so it's worth casting there. Now I can actually see into the water here because it's very clear, and I don't think I'd be putting my line right in all those snags because I'd get snagged and lose my bait. But as I move that across, those snags should start disappearing. So let's turn the fish icons off. So now that I'm getting away from them snags, look, the snags are gone. So there's a good spot to fish. If I couldn't see into the water there now, I can tell by looking here, right about there in the middle, at the end of the snags and the start of the open, I can put my line there and not get snagged, and the fish can swim out from under the snags and grab my bait. So that's a good spot to try. Now, if you are using fish icons, you then have the option for fish depth. The one on the left just shows you where the fish are. The one in the middle will tell you how far they are off the bottom. What I'll do, I'll cast it back over to that snag. Righto, here it is. Sometimes it takes a couple of seconds when you first cast it in because it's got to re-find to the satellites. So from here, if you look at the setting in the middle, the fish with the up arrow, that tells me how far they are off the bottom. I'm in 2.9 metres of water, as we can see at the top. And there's a big fish 1.9 off the bottom, a small fish 1.5 off the bottom. And so sorry, that tells us how far they are from the top, so I've got that the wrong way. That's 1.5 metres down. The bigger ones down the bottom here are 2.5 metres down. This one with the arrow pointing down is the other way. It tells us how far off the bottom they are. Sorry, I had that around backwards a minute ago. So we've got, that just tells us where they are. The middle one tells us how far from the top they are. The one on the right tells us how far from the bottom they are. And fish alarm's on. If I turn the fish alarm on, I might have my phone on silent here, I think, because it's not making any noise. Yeah, that beeping noise, I don't know whether the microphone picked that up or not. I'll go back over there. When it finds a fish, it'll beep. I actually didn't cast right over them snags. I missed them. There's one. Just went bing, bing. I'm not sure whether they're... And again, that's a beeping noise. That's a fish alarm. I've actually used that on one of my, I think it was on my Deeper Pro Plus. I'm going to turn that off now while I'm talking. I was at Lake Muramir. I was out in the open. It was only 3 or 4 feet deep. It was a muddy bottom, no structure, no anything. So I just cast my fish finder out. I just sat it there and I didn't worry about it, and I just left it sitting on a small tripod with the fish alarm turned on. And after about half an hour I hear these bing bing. I looked down and it was showing up a fish. And I kid you not, within about 5 seconds I got a bite and I caught a carp. It actually detected the carp swimming under the fish finder. These fish finders will detect fish, but it's very hard in snaggy areas to differentiate between fish and snags. So let's cast it back out there a bit. And as for the size, yeah, it does show you the different sizes, but that's provided it's a fish and not a snag that it's actually showing you. Here it comes. Right. Now let's move down. I'm going to turn them fish icons off. So I've got my sensitivity down, but I might go up a little bit with that, but I've got my fish icons off. Color palette. This is a really good feature. At the moment, I'm on default. Gee whiz, it's showing something up on the bottom there. Oh, if I look down there, there's actually a big branch directly, I don't know whether the camera's picking it up or not, but there's a big branch directly underneath my my fish finder. Can't really see it, I don't think. I just took my camera off to have a look. But there's a big branch directly underneath my fish finder, and that's showing up on the fish finder there now. But anyway, this is the default colour palette. The middle one is for bright sunny days, and that makes the screen go white. You see that? That makes it easier to see in bright light. Just think when you look into a shop window during the day, if the shop is really dark inside and you're out in a bright sunny day, all you see is a reflection. And when you're using a dark screen like that, quite often, even now, I can see my reflection in my phone really well. When I go there, I can barely see myself. I can see the screen, more of the screen and less of me. The night mode is optimized for nighttime vision, because at night your retinas in your eyes shrink so that you can see more stuff in the dark, and you don't want to be looking at a really bright screen, because then when you look up at your rod tip, all you'll see is the bright screen in your eyes. You won't see anything. So that's optimized for nighttime. But for now, I could probably leave it on day, but I think I'll leave it on default. Now I've got the last few down here. Distance to sonar. Actually, it says experimental. I think this might be a new feature. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to cast it out there. This will show up the top of the screen. Right, so let's hit distance to sonar. Up the top here above, it's just under 14.6 degrees. It tells me that it's 10 plus 5 metres. I'm not sure what that means, but let's cast it out a bit further and see what happens. They're now saying less than 10 metres. 10 plus 5 must be 10 to 15 metres. That must be like an estimate, right. This is only a new feature, this one. I'll lob a big cast way out there. It might take a bit longer for it to start scanning again, but we'll have a look and see. Now, here we go. Look at that, 31 plus 5 metres. So it must be around about the 31 to 36 metres way out there where I just cast it. And it's 3 metres deep. That's pretty cool. So that tells me how far out I am. I don't actually know why you would need to know that, but it's there if it's something that interests you. Right, now I'll turn that off. We don't need to know that. Night fishing, I'm not going to touch that. If I turn that on, what that'll do, that will put a little light inside the fish finder that'll flash on and off, on and off. And at night time, you turn that into night fishing, that turns that light on and makes it flash under that bright yellow cover. And at night time, you can see where the fish finder is at any given time. It's really cool to watch, but it's actually very entertaining to watch at night time. So that's for night fishing. Depth alarm. You could probably set that, I suppose, if you want to. You can, underneath here, you can set how you want it. I guess that's if you're, say, drifting in a lake chasing redfin and the fish are at 8 feet. Well, you might set your depth alarm for 5 feet or 6 feet, so that if you start drifting into shallow water, you get a notification. That'd be more used if you're if you're boat fishing, I would imagine. So we'll turn that off. And low power mode, I won't turn that on. Basically all that is, that's just power save mode. That's all that is. Just like a lot of digital devices, cameras and stuff have power save mode, that's just power save mode. So they're all the main features. So usually if I'm making a scan like I am now in a small waterway like this, I'll have it on offshore mode to create a bathymetric map. I'll have it on raw instead of basic. I have the vertical flasher on or off, it doesn't really bother me. The beam angle I always just have in auto. I always just put it in auto. That way it'll automatically go to the 7 degrees if it gets too shallow. I don't have the fish icons turned off because in most of the waterways I fish, they're quite snaggy. I'm not sure whether it's showing me snags or fish. The colour palette I'll definitely will use night when I'm night fishing or day during the day. Today's not a really bright day, so the default setting is quite fine. And that's really about it. That's all I use. Now let's have a look and see what's happening over here with my bathymetric map. Now over here on the left, you will see the little plus button down the left. I can add this spot. I can save this spot. Let's save it. That saves it to my little map. Now if you look at the little arrow on the right here that's pointing up, what that does, that resets everything. So if I zoom in, this is the bathymetric map that I've so far created just while I've been talking now. If I happen to, say I'm trying to move this out and I accidentally bump that off and whoops, it's gone. Where's my scan? If you hit that, that'll just bring it straight back to where you start. Then this little button here above that with all the thing has quite a few settings. You can choose what you want to add here. If I decide to mark this spot, if I want to mention that it's got toilet facilities or an anchor, or I can camp here, I can add that just so that when I'm looking at my maps, I can see that it's a good camping spot and whatnot. I generally don't use these features. And up the top left here, I can go to my own maps. If I hit history, it'll show me all my own scans. I don't really want to do that right now because I don't know what's going to happen to the fish finder. Premium gives you access to bathymetric maps that have been created by Deeper, offline maps, the weather for the area, which is like a built-in little weather app. The Deeper store. Say I'm here and I think, gee, I wouldn't mind one of those little rubber clamps that go on my rod for my phone, but then I can just hit the Deeper store and go and order one there and now. Preferences, that's so you can change it from kilogram to pound, feet to centimetres and all that sort of stuff. I've got it set at 24 hours. Oops, I bumped one too many buttons. And you can mark your catches and all that sort of stuff in there. Then you've got support, account and agreements. You can log into your own account there. Your account accesses maps and whatnot. So now, with all that done, I've shown you all that. What I'm now going to do is I'm going to go ahead now I'm going to stop talking so much and I'm going to go and create a bathymetric map of the dam here. So all I need to do is just cast it out and reel it in, and cast it out and reel it in, and that will colour in the map, and I'll see what I can come up with as far as a bathymetric map goes. I might just put one over here in the corner. I haven't sort of had one over there, so that should colour in a new part. There we go. See, I'm just off in a new area there. Now, Brendan Woodman caught 20 redfin at Lake Epilock this afternoon. I just got that message through. Now, I don't even have phone service here. I must have just hit a little bit of service. Right, let's go way over there where I haven't made a cast yet. Wow, I think I need to put some new line on this reel. That might take a moment to detect, it's a fair way away. Right, there we go. Now I'm going to stop talking now, and I'm just going to do some scanning, and then we'll have a look at the map when I'm finished. Right, now I've just gone back into the app. I'm back at the car now. I've got the deeper turned off. It's out of the water, it's dry, it's not connected anymore. I don't want to connect, so this is where we were earlier. We had to connect. But now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to those top 3 bars on the top left hand side. I'm going to go to history. And you'll see here, the top one, onshore, has got a little cloud beside it without a tick. The rest underneath here all have ticks in them that I've been playing around with for a while. But that one there doesn't have a tick in it. So what I'm going to do, over the right hand side, you'll see a red arrow with a red cloud with an up arrow. I'm going to touch that. Now this is going to take ages because I've got very, very little service where I am. What that's going to do, that's going to add that to my own deeper map. All of these scans, including these couple that I played with yesterday, they will all be stored on this deeper map, on my own personal map. Now whether this will happen now while I'm standing here or not, I don't know, because I don't have a lot of service. What I am going to do is I'm going to go in here, I'm going to hit these buttons on the right hand side, these 3 little dots. I'm going to hit rename, and I'm going to change it to Parky's Dam. Okay, so they are now, look at that. Instead of saying standard boat, or in this case it was onshore, it's going to say Parky's Dam. Now I think I can probably still look at this on the map while I'm here before it uploads. So let's zoom in, let's see if I can find the scan. What I'll do, I'll go back into there again, I'll hit those 3 buttons, I'll hit history, I'll hit Parky's Dam. So you can still see it now while it's uploading anyway. If I zoom all the way in here on Parky's Dam, look at that, there's my bathymetric map. Now when I'm at home, I can access all this at home. I've just hit the play button and it's going to show me. I can even speed it up to 5 times, 10 times. You can see it's moving through really fast there. It's showing me I can make that a bit smaller and see more of the scan. You'll see the on the left hand side, the actual little black circle, that's the deeper unit. You'll see that it's not moving too fast, because that's where I was when I was going through all the settings. You can see where I was going through basic and raw and basic there, and changing the cone sizes for the Sonar 1, 5 and 10. So I can lay in bed at home at night and look at all this and study my favourite fishing spots. So I can see where I've cast out there. I can see where it's where there's a bit of a drop off. I can see there's lots of snags around that edge, which I know there is. So folks, that is the nitty gritty of the Deeper Fish Finder app. Now, like I said, all fish finders are different and they have different features, but on the whole, most of these settings are pretty universal across the entire Deeper range, with the exception of a couple of settings. I'm using the Deeper Chirp+2. If you've got a Deeper, well, you should be able to get a bit of information out of this video, hopefully. If you haven't got a Deeper and you'd like one, I'll put a link in the video description below this video to where you can find them. And if you use my discount code Robbie10 at the checkout, you will save yourself 10%. That might not sound like much, but if it's a $400 fish finder, you're going to save a whopping 40 bucks. So you can buy a fish finder and a carton of beer for the same price that you can just buy the fish finder. Folks, thanks very much for watching. I hope you've found this Deeper tutorial informative and useful. If you have, then please give the video a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button, and hopefully I'll see you in my next video.